most people's financial health is at an all-time low right now. It's partly because of financial literacy. Around 35% of people don't know what interest is in a financial context. And also because of stress, forgetfulness, and a rock-bottom mentality. But today we're going to change that, especially if you're a beginner and you're one of those people who's ignored your financial issues because, well, dealing with them seems pointless and overwhelming. We've kept it short, focused, and impactful. Sometimes there's a lot to say and a lot to learn, but when you're just starting out, you progress faster by focusing on a few key issues. So let's get into it. Here are 15 mistakes beginners make when trying to build wealth. Starting off at number 1 with a very common one, they think it's all about cutting costs and saving. Cutting costs has diminishing returns, okay? There's only so much you can budget for and cut out before it starts to impact your quality of life. The more you do this, the more you increase your chances of your goals backfiring, because the path often ends in a splurge moment. When you make your budget, your core focus should be first on maximizing your income and then minimizing your expenses. Small increases in income have a more significant effect on wealth over time than the small sacrifices that come from constant penny pinching. Beginners often think wealth building is about shrinking their expenses as much as possible because it feels like a tangible, immediate action. We often hear that saving is the first step to financial stability, so it makes sense a beginner would take that as step 1. But wealth is more about growing your income than it is about cutting your expenses. When you start your journey, increasing your income should always be the end goal of your decisions. You need to save where it makes sense, and then balance it out with investing in skills or assets that increase your earning potential overall. Money can be a source of anxiety and when finances feel overwhelming. Beginners often avoid looking at their balance because they think ignorance will reduce that stress. They don't plan to ignore it forever, but they do delay looking at it until they have to, or until some more money comes in. Avoidance leads to impulsive decisions. Impulsive decisions lead to unnecessary spending and more stress. So checking your bank balance can actually reduce stress. Humans are more afraid of the things they don't know than they are of being in a difficult position. At least when you know, even when it's bad, you've got an idea of where you're going. We're a species who loves to be in control, right? And you can only do that when you know where you stand financially. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but it builds awareness and confidence. It's like facing any fear. The more you do it, the less power it holds over you. Number 3, they start off with too many goals. Focusing on 1 or 2 goals at a time leads to faster overall progress. A clear vision for one goal has a ripple effect. It leads to improving other areas of your finances in a natural, no-pressure way. The small wins compound. The big ones blow up eventually because, well, they're just not sustainable. Ambition and excitement are high at the start of the journey. So beginners think that setting multiple goals will lead to faster progress. It's only through trial and error, frustration and mistakes, do they learn that clarity is more important than quantity. As you learn what you're capable of and build up those goal-achieving muscles, you can tackle your bigger visions down the road. Think of your goals in tiers. Essential goals like emergency savings, growth goals like investments, and lifestyle goals like travel. All keep them simple, make them high impact, and conserve your energy. Number 4, they sacrifice things that make them happy in the name of saving. Deprivation reduces your financial stamina. If you want your wealth-building journey to be sustainable, you have to make sure you're still having some fun. You don't want to resent the process altogether, you want to enjoy it. Spending your money on happiness is a form of self-investment, really. Because being happy improves your productivity and creativity, and that impacts your earning potential. Beginners fall into the trap of equating savings with self-denial. It feels like if they deprive themselves, they will accelerate their progress. As if their unhappiness is a sacrifice that can be a form of income. But it doesn't add money to your bank account, it only takes away joy from your life. Budget for happiness and motivation. Because building wealth should improve your quality of life, not diminish it. Number 5, they compromise on quality to avoid spending more. Quality is an investment in the future. How often have you looked at 2 of the same items with different prices? and picked up the cheaper one because that's all you can afford right now. You're making a mistake, okay? That cheap product is going to break sooner, and it won't work as well as you'd hoped, so you don't even get some good use out of it. If you can't afford the good quality thing right now, save up for it until you can. Things that pay back in dividends like education, work tools, and your health are all things you should never compromise or cheap out on. It's the cost per use that shows you the real value. And this is why that save mindset can be so confusing. It makes someone stepping into the wealth-building world focus on price instead of quality, because they're trying to store as much money as possible. It's the wrong strategy. A report from the IRS showed the average millionaire has 7 income streams. Yet here you are trying to build wealth with your one job and one income. You might think you're someone who avoids taking risks, but if you only have one income stream, then you are living on the edge, my friend. You're one economic shift away from financial insecurity. A little risk and multiple income streams creates far more stability. It doesn't have to be a big new business. Even a small side income can multiply over time and reduce your dependency on your main job. It's also more likely to lead to unexpected opportunities. This is where you're exposed to new skills, networks, and industries that ultimately fuel your long-term growth. Number 7, they put pressure on themselves with a short timeline. You might think that seeing results will help you stay motivated, so you push yourself to reach milestones in the shortest time possible. But seeing results only motivates you for half of the next step, and even then, it's not guaranteed. You're not actually motivated by results, you are motivated by discipline. You have to change the way you set goals. You shouldn't focus on celebrating when you reach a number. No, you should celebrate when you don't break your streak of small compounding habits. Keeping your habit streak improves your stamina. And the smaller you make that habit, the more likely you are to keep it going. Fast success is not better success, it's an illusion of it. It doesn't give you enough time to build a stable foundation, and eventually that will crash. You need to protect your approach with patience, so if anything comes at you unexpectedly, you've got a strong force field around it. It might not be as fun or as interesting, but it is the best way to do it. It's not your biggest expenses that are affecting your financial goals. No, you're always aware of those ones, so they're factored into the way you buy things. Plan your activities and live your life. What's actually getting you here are those small daily expenses. And there's 2 reasons for this. Firstly, obviously, small daily costs snowball into big sums, right? But most importantly, they fly under the radar and create a financial world of ignorance and no control. You don't have to track every single small expense, but you do have to pay attention to what you're doing. You need to put it all on your radar, because behavioral shifts save more than budgets. Does this mean you have to give up your morning coffee from your favorite cafe? Well, that's entirely up to you, okay? If the thought of it makes you unhappy, then don't stop buying it, but do start appreciating it more. Make it seem valuable. Treating these small expenses as something that brings real value into your life shifts your relationship with money. And everything matters mindset compounds growth. A little awareness and some simple tweaks can drastically change your behavior around money. Number 9, they think they've failed when they blow their budget. Most beginners get excited by a little inspiration and start their journey by creating a strict budget. They treat this budget like a rule book, so when they overspend, they see it as a failure. And then they're more likely to throw the entire book out the window and decide to start again next month. But all this leads to a cycle of discouragement and shame. So first of all, be very realistic about your budget. And even then, once you've been as realistic as possible, go back to it and be more realistic. And even more honest. Give yourself more rope than you think you need, because you do, okay? You can always make changes and adjustments later on once you know your financial personality better. It's easier to tighten the rope as time goes on than it is to loosen it out. You're supposed to create a guide for yourself, not a military manual. If you've failed, that's just because you didn't write your guide with the real you in mind. But that's okay, because the more you struggle to stick to this budget, the clearer you start to see your behavioral pattern. Perfection isn't possible when you're starting out, so why are you aiming for that? Okay, start with progress and use it to build momentum. 10. They don't realize that impulsivity is one of the main enemies of wealth building. Enemy number 1 is focusing on saving and cutting costs instead of increasing your income. Enemy number 2 is your impulsive behavior. It's not just about not acting on your intrusive thought telling you to buy something you don't need. It's about strengthening the muscles that control delayed gratification. Because, look, this entire journey is about delayed gratification. If you don't train yourself to be okay with waiting for what you want, then you won't ever buy better quality products that last longer. You won't make smart long-term investments. You won't be able to sustain your movements towards your financial goals, or have the discipline to keep going through the boring moments, and then you won't have the resilience to push through the tough stuff. Impulsivity stops you from seeing the bigger picture. It distracts you. It almost blinds you. It makes you constantly seek novelty and ignore discipline. And you need discipline to do those repetitive actions that wealth building requires. In the end, you're not just building wealth here. No, you're building a better version of yourself. Stronger, wiser, more resilient, and that, ultimately. Number 11, make wealth building a side focus instead of a core one. Getting rich isn't something you can put on the sidelines of your life. It's not a reserve player that you can bend. It's your star performer. It has to be a part of everything you do, or you won't make any progress with it. Your smallest decisions, from whether you cook tonight or order food for delivery, to the big ones, like do you live in an area of high earning potential, an expensive city, or a lower wage, cheaper place. All of these decisions have to be made with the idea of your money-making end goal in mind. If you want to be successful, you have to factor it into every part of your life. Beginners want to build their wealth, but they forget about the grand plan when life gets busy, because they only give it a small space in the corner of their mind. If you want financial security, then it needs to be the overarching theme of your life. If you've been a shallow spender for most of your life, then a lot of your friends are probably like that too. Just because you've had an epiphany about your financial future doesn't mean that they're going to jump on board with you. And actually, you'll probably find that some of them now think you're greedy and money hungry. The more you try to explain why this is important to you, the more it seems like they're judging you. Good friends will never make you feel bad about wanting safety and security, and if they do, then maybe you need to think about the future of your friendship. At the same time, others might not be as critical, but they also won't be as supportive as you want. The truth is, it's not up to you to save them, or to make them understand why you've become so focused on your financial security. Don't take investment advice from your friends, even if they have more experience than you. You can get their opinion, sure, but don't follow their words like gospel. Because if anything goes wrong, you might lose that friendship too. If you're planning on buying a house, wait for a good time, but not the perfect time. If you do your research properly, you'll see that people regret waiting too long more than they regret acting too soon. Don't miss out on opportunities because you're paralyzed by the search for certainty. You need to know exactly why you're doing this, why you want to build your wealth. Your reasons need to have meaning and depth. Superficial motivations won't be strong enough to keep you moving when things get tough. Every time you think you have a reason, go deeper. Ask yourself, but why this? At the bottom of all of this searching, you'll probably find fear. It's not the most glamorous motivator, but look, it is a strong one. Nothing keeps you stuck like the illusion of tomorrow. Tomorrow is just today because ultimately, you are the same person. You're not going to wake up tomorrow more motivated and prepared. This is it. You, right now. You start today with small steps, and you keep on going tomorrow and the day after and the day after that. Tomorrow is a day for momentum, okay? It's not the start of your race. Your marathon starts today. So let's go.